Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So we are now in December and I'm going to kick off with how to master a red lip and make it last throughout the day. So some little tips and tricks. I've done something similar with a bold lip, but I thought, you know, it's an appropriate time of year to do a red lip version. So it won't be very long. I'm not going to focus on the products that I'm using as such, so use whatever you've got obviously in your collection. So that sounds like something you're interested in, then please keep on watching. What I would do is step one is make sure you've got nice hydrated lips. So what I did is I popped some lip balm on and then I did my makeup, the rest of my makeup. So I would recommend doing that first. If you've got a lip mask, do that the night before maybe. You could always do it with a lip scrub as well. And then before you start your makeup, pop a lip balm on just to get that nice hydration whilst you do the rest of your makeup. Then when you get to your lips, obviously you want to take this off, because if I keep this lip balm on, it won't allow my lip products to last that long. But we want to make sure that you know your lips are nice hydrated, because you don't want like lip products to kind of stick to certain patches. You want it to go on smoothly, and like with your base routine, although you want it to kind of last and you powder, you do setting spray, you want a hydrated base to begin with to allow the products to sit on top of it nicely. And the same principle with your lips. Okay, so I've removed that lip balm. So yeah, my lips feel nice, moisturised and ready for the lips. So I would always recommend, with any kind of lip colour, bold or not, and you want it to last all day, do a lip liner as well as a lipstick, and do the lip liner all over the lips. You want to create a couple of layers so to prevent it disappearing too quickly. So even if you eat and drink, there's still it's got quite a few layers to get through before it, you know, fully comes off or like goes patchy or whatever. So always start off with a lip liner and make sure it's nice and sharp. So what I do first is the lip line itself, get that shape down. I do personally prefer a pencil, wooden pencil lip liner. I find that usually the product isn't as creamy as like a twistable one, and this isn't drying, this lip liner, this is the Benecos one, but obviously any red liner you've got, but something that isn't too waxy or too slippery. You want something that's easy to apply but isn't going to disappear and slip and slide everywhere. Okay, I've got my shape down. If it's not completely neat, don't worry, because we're going to do it tidying up later. I'll show you how to, but now I've done that, I can go ahead and just fill in. So I just use the side of the lip pencil. So we got that down, and obviously pick a tone of red that you enjoy and suits you as well, because I know it's kind of variation. You have the blue tone reds, the pinkier reds, the slightly more orangey reds, although I feel like orangey reds are more summer, so the blue or pink tones really, but whatever is your preference on kind of the red shade, the red tone, do. Then we're going to go in lipstick next, and I would say try and go for a matte lipstick, or at least a satin. I know a lot of people do like glossy lips, and I am going to show you, if you do like a glossy lip, how to kind of make it work, but I would recommend starting off with a matte to satin kind of lipstick. Obviously if you don't have one, then go with your slightly glossier one. Putting the lip liner all over like this will still help with that and provide an extra layer of colour for when you're eating and drinking and stuff. But I've got a slightly more of a matte red here I'm going to go in with next. So next you just want to go in with your lipstick. make sure your lips are nice and coated. Like that. So we've got another extra layer of colour on there. And at this stage is where I would probably do a bit of tidying up should you need it. So for me personally, I like using my eye primer for this because it's a slightly thinner texture than a concealer, and it's not going to be as obvious that I've done this. I find sometimes with concealers, if it's quite a stark colour or quite a full coverage concealer, you sometimes get a bit of a line, or you can see kind of the difference between like this part of the skin and right up next to your lips, and sometimes it can be quite hard to blend that in. So I would go with something like a light consistency of concealer or a light eye primer. So I take that on a little brush like this, and then I go around and just tidy up. And what I would recommend, especially with like a red lip or a bold lip, is rubbing off the brush each time you go in and just picking up a little more eye primer, just so you don't run the risk, if you accidentally get a bit of red on the brush, you're not then going to smudge that around the lips. So I'm going to rub that off, pick up a little more. So I'm quite happy with the shape and sharpness that I've got going on anyway. But if you were to like go a little bit messy or something by accident, this is quite a nice way of doing it. Or if you just really like that sharp look, for an everyday look, like if I'm going for a bit of a red lip or like a subtle red lip or a nude, I will not worry too much about the sharpness of the lip line. I actually prefer on a day-to-day basis kind of smudging it a little bit and having a bit of a softer lip line. But when I want like a proper red lip or a bold lip, this is kind of what I would do. Oh, you can see the difference there actually, sharpness wise. So I'm going to rub it off and just make sure that I've blended the eye primer. Okay, let's see this thing on the other side. I'm happy with the Cupid's bow. I don't like a particularly super defined Cupid's bow, so I'm kind of happy with that. So I'm going to take a little bit of powder and just gently set the lips. It's going to add a little bit of locking power in there. And if you've got a slightly glossy lip, do this and then go in with a little bit extra of the lipstick. So then you've got the kind of extra layer in between to help it last a little bit longer. And for me, I'd feel happy now that this is going to last really well throughout the day. Now if you are someone who does prefer your glossy lip and you do happen to have a matte lipstick and do this bit first, what you can do is go in with something that's glossier but has got pigment, so either like a lip paint or a slightly thicker lip gloss that's going to add the colour as well as the gloss to it. That's what I would recommend next. So I'm going to demonstrate that. But obviously this isn't transfer proof unless you use a liquid lipstick. I'm not a fan of liquid lipstick. I've got a few that I enjoy, but I prefer like the nudes for liquid lipsticks as well, just 'cause I feel it a bit more forgiving as opposed to the bolder colours. So that's why I always go with a lip like this, but this will last me, and even if I'm eating, drinking, and you get the colour on the glass, there will still be colour at the end of the day, and it will, adding those layers also help it kind of fade a bit nicer, so when it does eventually fade, it kind of isn't patchy and there's still like a kiss of colour as well, which I think is really pretty. But yeah, if you do like your gloss and you have got a matte lipstick, try do that first and then add your gloss second. If you have just a lip gloss, then go for it. If you do happen to have one that's kind of a bit more thicker, has a bit of colour, I'd recommend that because it's just going to add an extra layer of colour and yeah, lasting power. What I would do though is dab. Just so you prevent any movement of what you've done underneath. And if you're doing the method where you've got a glossy lipstick, you've done a little bit of powder, then you go in for your second layer. With the second layer, I would still pat, just to prevent any movement. There we go. So we have a nice glossy I'd avoid lip oils if you can, because lip oils will break down lipstick and stuff, so go for a gloss or a thicker lip paint type thing. So there we go, we've got another layer of colour, and it's had that gloss if you prefer that glossy finish, which actually is pretty, the gloss finish, to be fair. And if you really wanted to make sure this lasts a bit longer, you could then go in with your setting spray. And as long as it's setting spray that obviously doesn't keeps your makeup in place all day, then that is going to be perfect. So that's kind of my tips and recommendations for mastering a red lip at this time of year, and little tips to make it last just that bit longer. It seems like quite a few steps and a little bit unnecessary, and on a normal, like if I was just going out for a meal and wearing a bit of a bold lip, I wouldn't necessarily do all these steps. But when it's like the party season and you may be having a bold lip on for a lot longer than you would normally, these are just a few tips and tricks that I would do just to make sure it lasts as long as possible. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. I am going to mix up December's content, so it won't all be like party kind of type videos. There will be just regular makeup videos as well thrown in there, just to keep a good balance. But yeah, this is the lip complete. I really hope you enjoyed and found it helpful. Leave any future request videos down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.